Welcome, welcome everyone to another deep dive. Today we're stepping right into the fast lane, the high-octane world of Formula One. It's a place where, incredible engineering meets those split-second decisions and, plenty of human drama.
Absolutely. It's always fascinating.
And our mission today, we want to pull back the curtain a bit on one of this season's real standout teams, McLaren. We're going to try and dissect their strategic gambles, explore that really interesting dynamic between their two rising stars, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. It feels sometimes fraught, doesn't it?
It certainly can look that way on track.
And we'll tackle that burning question that seems to be on everyone's mind. Is their incredible success, this surge they've had, is it purely down to raw driving talent? Or is their car now just, so dominant that it's doing most of the heavy lifting?
That's the core of it, isn't it? And it's a really captivating subject, especially when you think about the colossal stakes involved in F1. Every decision, every tiny fraction of a second, it can be the difference between, glory and massive disappointment.
Definitely.
So to help us navigate this pretty complex landscape, we've really dug into a rich transcript we got from F1 blogs. It's an online platform, you probably know it, known for some really astute commentary. Their experts have, meticulously picked apart McLaren's performance, their internal workings. It gives us some invaluable insights.
Absolutely. So think of this deep dive as maybe your shortcut, a way to understand the hidden gears turning behind the scenes at a top F1 team like McLaren.
Yeah, the stuff you don't always see. Exactly.
We'll try to uncover the immense pressures on Norris and Piastri and examine what really ignites a compelling rivalry in modern racing. We'll do all this through the lens of specific races, specific moments, and those really keen observations from the F1 blogs commentary.
Sounds good.
So if you're ready to get a deeper understanding of F1 strategy, those high-stakes rivalries that just define the sport, let's get started.
Let's do it. And straight away, one of the things you hear whispered about McLaren, especially now they're performing so well, is this idea maybe they're favoring Lando Norris, in the strategy calls, subtly, maybe even overtly.
Yes, the favoritism question. It always comes up, doesn't it?
It's almost inevitable in Formula One. You get two really competitive drivers, same garage, and that suspicion just arises, particularly if one driver seems to consistently get let's say, the better strategy call, or what looks like it anyway. Yeah,
it's a natural leap for fans to make, I think. You see one driver maybe get a slightly better pit stop timing or a different tire choice that works out, and your mind just immediately goes there. Could there be a bias? So what did the analysis from F1 blogs actually say about this? Did they find any evidence? Did McLaren really put their thumb on the scale for Lando?
Well, the F1 blogs take was pretty unequivocal on this. They completely dismissed it, just flat out rejected the idea of favoritism.
Really?
Their perspective was very clear. McLaren has one single overriding objective: win both championships, constructors and drivers. Both. And honestly, it doesn't matter which driver gets the driver's title. The goal is just securing both trophies as quickly, as efficiently as possible.
Right.
And this focus, they argued, it's paramount, because winning those championships quickly helps to quiet down any internal, they called it movidas, internal commotion, stuff that might fester within the team, or maybe even between the drivers' fan bases.
That's a really powerful distinction, isn't it? It kind of strips away the emotional narrative, the loyalty, the preference stuff. It just gets down to the cold, hard business of winning at the absolute top level.
Exactly. Business.
So if the team's ultimate goal is eliminating that internal tension, just securing both titles, how does that intense, almost ruthless pragmatism, how does it shape their decisions on track? Does it really mean they don't care which McLaren driver wins as long as the McLaren driver wins?
Absolutely. The commentators really hammered this point home. They described the mindset, especially for top teams heading into those final decisive races. They're ready for war.
Wow. War.
Yeah, a true Bard Troia, a Trojan War, as they put it quite vividly. And it's not just, dramatic language. It really encapsulates the immense pressure, financial, reputational, all of it weighing on these teams.
I can imagine.
For McLaren, getting both titles means stability, undeniable success. It dissolves any potential, us versus them feelings between the drivers, their engineers, whoever.
Okay.
The objective is to get to a point where the entire team can genuinely go on vacation after the season ends. Not these sort of semi-vacations where the championship fight is still hanging over them, undecided.
Right. Makes sense. Finish the job.
Exactly. This pragmatic, results-first approach dictates everything. Every strategy call, every pit stop, every radio message. The underlying principle is just maximize the team's total points. Doesn't matter whose tally is higher individually, because that's the fastest path to the main goal, the championships.
It really shows how clinical, how business-like top-tier F1 has become.
Very much so.
That level of calculated thinking is, eye-opening. It defines top pro sports, I suppose. Team success first, at least from the management side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of strategy calls, that immense pressure. Let's drill down into a specific race, one that really put McLaren's decision-making and maybe some anxieties under the spotlight.
Hey.
The Hungarian Grand Prix.
Ah, yes, Hungary. Definitely a key one.
They were certainly walking a strategic tightrope there. Let's start with Lando Norris. His strategy was pretty aggressive, almost called desperate by some, a one-stopper. What happened there? Why was it so pivotal?
Right, so in Hungary, Norris found himself in, a desperate situation, pretty much right at the start. He lost crucial track position.
Okay.
And that immediately put McLaren in a strategic bind. To try and recover, they felt they had to commit to a one-stop strategy. High risk, high reward, definitely a move away from what most other teams were thinking.
Which was mostly 2 stops, right?
Mostly 2 stops, yeah. But what's fascinating is that this call, which looked reactive, maybe even desperate at the time, it later proved to be, kind of unexpectedly, the best strategy for the whole race.
Really?
Yeah. We even saw other drivers, like Alonso, end up benefiting from a similar approach later on. It showed its effectiveness, even though it initially looked like a big gamble, just highlights that fine line in F1 between, desperation and strategic genius.
That's incredible, isn't it? Committing to something so different from everyone else, especially when most are clearly planning a 2-stop, that takes huge conviction from the driver, from the pit wall.
Enormous conviction.
How does a team even make that kind of high-stakes call mid-race? Betting the whole outcome on it, essentially. And crucially, what was Norris's own input in all this? Did he push for it?
Well, it's partly down to the incredible real-time data analysis they have now, obviously, but it's also about having that willingness to, deviate, to be daring. They're constantly crunching numbers. Tire degradation, fuel curves, pace relative to others, projecting laps ahead. But what really cemented this move and highlighted Norris's own strategic thinking was his input during a potential safety car period.
Ah, okay. What did he say?
The team initially suggested, look, if we pit under the safety car, let's put on hard tires. That would be the conventional play, right? The safer bet for a one-stop. Focus on longevity.
Makes sense. Get him to the end.
But Norris apparently pushed back. He was assertive. He called for soft tires instead.
Softs. On a one-stop under a safety car, he overrode the team.
Essentially, yeah. And it turned out to be absolutely the right call. Hugely impressive in that high-pressure moment.
Wow. So why were softs so crucial there for track position? And why did the team initially suggest hards? It sounds like pure driver instinct winning out.
Precisely. Norris's call for softs was lauded later by the F1 blogs guys as accurate and sensible. He understood something crucial about racing under a safety car, which those hard tires, they would be incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, to get up to the right temperature behind a slow safety car, especially for a restart.
Ah, right. Cool tires, no grip.
Exactly. You come out of the pits on cold hards, you're a sitting duck for the first few corners when it goes green, vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Soft tires, though, they give you immediate grip, immediate warmth.
So he could attack.
He grasped that instinctively. He needed to be ready to fight, capitalize on the restart, gain track position, not just, nurse tires to the flag. The team. They were likely to be more conservative, focused purely on making the one-stop last, even if it meant sacrificing immediate pace.
But Norris saw the opportunity.
Exactly. His aggressive, the deeply sensible call for softs was about maximizing the opportunity, not just managing risk. It showed he's not just fast, he's got that strategic brain. Thinking steps ahead, challenging the engineers when his gut tells him something different. That kind of co-strategic thinking from the cockpit, that's what separates the really elite drivers.
Okay, but here's where it gets, really interesting. Because if Norris was making these brilliant, assertive calls, Oscar Piastri's race in Hungary went very differently. Controversially, even.
Very different path.
Piastri was actually leading the race at one point, which is sensational for a rookie. But then he was taken out of that lead by a forced 2-stop strategy. And the F1 blogs experts, they were pretty scathing about this decision.
They absolutely were. Didn't mince words at all.
So what exactly happened with Piastri's strategy? Why did it get such strong disapproval?
The commentators suggested McLaren strategists were, fallible. and maybe worse, full of fear when it came to Piastri's race.
Dear.
Their specific worry, the experts believed, was that Piastri wouldn't make it to the end on a one-stop, even though Norris was managing it fine.
But why the difference? Just because he's a rookie?
Possibly that factored in. But this fear, it led them to force Piastri onto a two-stop. The commentators explicitly called this mistaken, a failure. And this strategic blunder cost him track position immediately. Lost the lead, then had to spend vital laps trying to re-overtake Russell, maybe Leclerc later. And as you know, every overtake is risky. Hard on tires burns time.
Full of fear. That's an incredibly strong thing to say about an F1 strategy team. How does fear even manifest? How does it impact those split-second, data-driven decisions?
It's a fascinating thing in F1 strategy, almost paradoxical. Fear often leads strategists to, overthink, to hedge their bets, opt for the perceived safer option.
But safer isn't always faster.
Often it's slower, less optimal. In Piastri's case, the F1 blogs guys pointed to another critical issue. The sheer volume and complexity of info he was getting over the radio.
Too much information.
Yeah. They described it not as clear instructions, but as a long monologue. Even constant rambling. Just this flood of info, options, hypotheticals, ifs and buts. Totally unhelpful. Incredibly distracting for a driver doing 200 miles an hour.
So it wasn't just the bad call, it was how they communicated it, overwhelming him when he needed clarity.
Exactly. Give him a simple choice. One stop, yes or no. Not a novel about tire wear possibilities.
That sounds eerily familiar. Reminds me of some other famous F1 strategic misses over the years. Did the commentators draw any parallels?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Directly compared it to Charles Leclerc's equally strange pit stop earlier in the season when he was leading.
Right. I remember that.
They expressed the same disbelief. What are they doing? They're leading the race. This comparison suggests maybe a worrying pattern, strategic overcaution, maybe a lack of decisive clarity from some pit walls, even top teams. And it cost them.
Big time.
It really highlights that even with all the amazing data and simulations, the human element, the pressure, the anxiety, the communication, it can still lead to huge errors. For Piastri, the result was immediate. He was in a genuinely strong position, a shot at a sensational result maybe, but the strategy, compounded by that confusing radio chatter, just pulled the rug out from under him. A stark reminder. Even the best teams can stumble.
That makes you wonder then, if top teams with all their resources can make these kinds of mistakes, especially under pressure, what's stopping these errors from being, blindingly obvious or immediately race-ending?
That's a great question.
And the F1 blogs experts brought up a really crucial, almost philosophical point here. They said the supercar McLaren has might actually be masking certain failures, not just from the pit wall, but maybe from the drivers too.
The masking effect, yes.
What does that really mean for how we assess performance in modern F1?
It's a hugely important question right now in F1. It sparks a lot of debate. When a car is inherently dominant, a genuine supercar like the McLaren seems to be, how much do those subtle strategy errors or maybe minor driver mistakes actually get overlooked or their impact minimized?
Because the car just makes up for it.
Pretty much. The F1 blogs commentators suggested, look, if your car is inherently, say, half a second faster per lap than most others, a driver might lose 0.2 on a corner, slight misjudgment, or pit wall makes a slightly suboptimal tire call. But the car's sheer pace lets them recover that lost time easily or hold position without drama.
So the mistakes aren't punished as harshly.
Exactly, which makes it incredibly hard to identify, acknowledge, and fix those failures because they aren't resulting in lost positions or big-time gaps.
And for judging the drivers.
It means we don't always see Norris or Piastri pushed to their absolute limit, having to compensate for the car not being perfect.
Yeah.
And it's often in those moments when a driver has to wring every last bit out of a flawed machine that you see that truly extraordinary talent shine through.
Yeah.
It's a challenging thought because it questions how much of their success is pure skill versus, the machinery they have underneath them.
That's a profound point. It flips the narrative a bit. Maybe true mastery, that extra spark, only really shows when the car isn't perfect.
Maybe.
But let's not lose sight of McLaren's overall strength. Despite these occasional blips or maybe masked issues, the team achieved an amazing 7 doublets, first and second place finishes, in just 14 races.
Incredible statistic.
Half their races, they locked out the top 2 spots. That clearly shows a superior package. But here's the paradox, isn't it? Despite that race pace, they didn't get pole position on Saturday in Hungary.
Yeah, that's the push.
How do we explain that? If they're so dominant in the race, why not on pole?
It definitely stands out when you just look at the result sheet.
Yeah.
But the F1 Blog's experts had a compelling explanation. They highlighted that the track conditions changed radically during qualifying.
How so?
Specifically, it was down to the wind, an unexpected shift in direction and strength. And crucially, the McLaren car, despite its speed, is known to be particularly sensitive to dirty air, a turbulent wake from other cars, and maybe even more so to wind.
Ah, okay. So that aerodynamic sensitivity.
Exactly. It's a known characteristic of certain design philosophies. Very effective when conditions are stable, but vulnerable when they change suddenly.
So even a supercar like the McLaren, something like the wind, can genuinely throw a massive wrench in the works. That really shows the razor-thin margins in F1, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Incredible precision is needed. And the F1 Blogs guys gave a really specific example from that Hungary qualifying that illustrates just how big the impact was.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
It was pretty striking. Lando Norris's time at Q2, the second session, was actually half a second faster than Charles Leclerc's final Q3 pole position time.
Half a second faster in Q2.
Yep. Think about that. Norris, earlier in the session, set a lap significantly quicker than the ultimate pole lap of the day.
So the pace was definitely there.
Unequivocally. That single data point proves the McLaren had the raw speed for pole.
Right.
It was the external factors, that sudden radical change in wind between Q2 and Q3, that disrupted their car's aerobalance more than others.
Right, because F1 cars rely so heavily on that optimized airflow.
Exactly. Tiny changes in wind can drastically alter how air flows over the wings, the floor, the diffuser, making the car less predictable, much harder to drive right on the limit, especially in qualifying where every thousandth counts.
It's a testament to the engineering, but also shows their vulnerability. It wasn't lack of speed, just conditions.
The invisible hand of the wind, as they say. Custom pole.
Fascinating stuff. Makes you appreciate how finely tuned everything is. Okay, let's pivot now. Away from the machine, the strategy, towards the drivers themselves, Norris and Piastri. That dynamic is always evolving, and the F1 Blog's experts predict we'll see many battles to the limit between them in the races left.
Seems likely, doesn't it?
We've already seen moments where they've been very close on track, leading to, as they put it, scares or a crash. Can you walk us through some of those past incidents? Give us a clearer picture of their on-track relationship.
Sure. The commentators definitely pointed to specific moments that show just how close they run and the tension that naturally comes with it. You know, two hyper-competitive teammates. Well, there was that collision in Canada. That was a pretty stark example of close racing going wrong, even inside the same team. Not just a little tap either. Could easily have ended both their races.
Right, I remember that one.
Then, in Austria, Piastri made a block. It was so aggressive he almost hit Norris. Apparently sent a real scare through the McLaren garage.
Oof.
And a very similar thing happened again in Hungary. They ran incredibly close again, really pushing the limits of what's okay between teammates.
So it's a pattern, not just isolated incidents.
Seems like it. Almost predictable outcomes when you have two drivers so evenly matched, so fiercely competitive, fighting for the same bit of track, the same points. It really sets the stage for an escalating rivalry, especially as the championship pressure builds.
Yeah, with only 9 points separating them at this stage and fewer races left, the intensity is just going to ramp up, isn't it?
Has to.
It feels almost inevitable that this proximity, this competition will lead to more conflict, even if they say they get along off track.
History suggests it will.
But the F1 Blog's experts also touched on something really intriguing. They called it the goodness dilemma. Despite this clear on-track intensity, is this rivalry maybe lacking something? Lacking that spice that makes a rivalry truly legendary?
Ah, yes. This is where their analysis got really interesting, digging into the psychology of F1 rivalries. And it might be a bit controversial for some fans.
How so?
Well, both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, they're described as, well, almost universally liked by everyone in the paddock, by most fans. There isn't that strong dichotomy, you know, that polarizing love and hate thing we've seen in F1's biggest rivalries.
You mean
like Hamilton-ROSBERG back in 2016.
Right.
That was defined by proper bad blood, deep personal history, led to crashes, high drama.
Very intense.
Or Hamilton-Verstappen, extreme fan polarization, real love and hate on both sides. Even going further back, Hamilton-Alonso, Alonso-Schumi. Those are exceptional battles, partly because of the huge personal tension, that antagonism.
So the F1 Blog's argument is Norris and Piastri are too nice. Their good guy image Lack of an acidic temperament means the rivalry lacks punch, lacks that hook.
That's essentially it. They admitted feeling a bit cold about the duel, which is a strong thing to say about the championship leaders.
Wow, cold. So what does that tell us about what makes a rivalry truly compelling for us watching? Is it just the raw competition, the on-track stuff, or is it that personal drama, the clash of personalities that really hooks us?
It's a great question about sports entertainment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the commentators definitely lean towards the latter. They felt that while the racing between Norris and Piastri is undeniably thrilling, the absence of a clear villain or an antagonist fans can really root against kind of diminishes the overall spectacle. When they have those close moments or even minor contact, what's the reaction? Almost always it's an apology. Sorry, my mistake, my fault. Which is sportsmanlike, professional.
But not exactly fuel for the fire.
Exactly. It doesn't fuel those passionate fan debates, that emotional investment, that visceral excitement you get from a blame game or a public spat. The nice guy image? Admirable maybe, but it doesn't create that polarizing energy that drives fan engagement sky high. It doesn't turn a race into a real narrative drama. They felt it was missing that human edge, that almost gladiatorial thing that brings out the tribalism in fans.
So, in a way, they're almost too polite for their own good from a narrative perspective.
You could argue that, yeah.
It sounds like the F1 blog's view is that for a rivalry to really catch fire, become legendary in the public mind, it needs that edge, that hint of animosity, real bad blood. Did they speculate on what it might take for this rivalry to ignite, to get that missing spark they feel it needs?
Oh, absolutely. They were quite pointed about it.
Yeah.
They suggested that just one single clear-cut collision, where one driver clearly blames the other, that could be the catalyst.
The blame game.
Imagine, they said, one driver saying publicly, totally his fault, and the other firing back, no way, it was yours. That, they think, is the moment you polarize the fan base.
And suddenly it's not just good racing, it's drama.
Exactly. Fans pick sides, opinions harden, the rivalry gets that acidic quality that makes it so much more compelling for the wider audience. Until then, they lamented, when Norris and Piastri hit, it's just, oh, sorry, mate, my bad.
Professional, but not box office gold.
Precisely. Doesn't create the same visceral reaction, the same enduring story as, say, Max versus Lewis. They specifically mentioned Verstappen's temperament, calling him very aggressive, very predatory, someone who naturally creates nuclear war on track at the slightest touch.
Yeah.
Stark contrast to the McLaren pair.
Yeah, very different personalities.
It really underscores the point. Raw talent, on-track performance, they're crucial. But personality and the story that builds around it, that plays a huge, maybe even defining role in how a rivalry is seen, celebrated, and ultimately remembered.
Makes perfect sense. It's the human drama that elevates it all. Okay, let's shift focus again. From the rivalry itself to a deeper look at the individual talent here, Norris and Piastri. F1 blogs put their talent under the microscope too, especially with that incredibly potent supercar they're driving. Which brings us back to that big perennial question. How much credit really goes to the car and how much to the driver when a team is this dominant?
It's the age-old F1 debate, right? It's so hard to answer definitively. The F1 blogs experts kept coming back to this idea that the McLaren supercar might indeed be masking certain failures of the drivers.
Not saying they aren't talented, though.
Oh, no, not at all. They're clearly elite drivers to be in that seat. But the argument is, when you have such a superior car, inherently faster.
Yeah.
The need for a driver to push the absolute limits of their natural talent, to find those extraordinary tenths through sheer skill and bravery, is just reduced.
Because the car gives them a buffer.
In effect, yeah. The car's performance envelope kind of covers small mistakes. A slightly missed braking point, a bit offline, a tiny lapse. Might cost you dearly in a lesser car, lose a place, lose time. But in the McLaren, the car's pace often lets them recover or hold position relatively easily.
Which makes it hard for us watching to fully gauge their true peak because they aren't consistently forced to, transcend the car's limits.
Exactly that. They're not constantly in situations where they have to pull something amazing out of the bag just to stay in the fight.
So if the car's that good, are they really being forced to tap into that deepest well of instinctive skill, that raw talent that defines the absolute best?
That's the crux of it.
And this ties into what F1 Blog said quite directly. They haven't consistently seen extraordinary things or those, jaw-dropping wow maneuvers from either Norris or Piastri, not to the degree they expect from the very, very top tier.
It's a strong statement, given McLaren's success.
It is. So what exactly defines an extraordinary maneuver in F1 for these commentators, and why do they think it's less evident with Norris and Piastri despite the results?
For these seasoned observers, an extraordinary move is something that genuinely goes beyond the car's capability, beyond the expected outcome. It's not just a clean pass, it's an impossible overtake, pulled off from way back, or with incredible precision under pressure.
Or maybe a save?
A heroic save from a near-certain crash, yeah. Controlling a car that looked gone. Or it's a strategic masterstroke on track that comes from pure, raw instinct and talent, not just following pit wall orders.
And they see that more from others.
They drew a stark contrast with drivers like Verstappen, Hamilton, Alonso. They argue those drivers consistently deliver these instinctive, talented moves. They mentioned Alonso saying all his life he's had to compensate for not having the fastest car, relying on his instinctive resources, getting performance that just shouldn't be there on paper.
Right, wringing the neck of the car.
And Verstappen, they recalled, showed it last year when Red Bull wasn't always dominant, pulling off incredible things to overcome the car's limitations sometimes. These moments are about improvisation, adaptation, pushing beyond the logical limits of the machine.
So it's about making up for speed differences, forcing the car to do things it maybe shouldn't, compensating for a less than perfect package.
Exactly.
And if the McLaren is the fastest car, those moments are just less likely because they don't need to compensate to the same degree. It's like they just race, one wins than the other without needing a miracle.
That's precisely how the F1 Blogs experts framed it. When the car is the class of the field, drivers just race. And one wins, and then the other, as they put it. There's significantly less need, maybe no need, to dig deep into those instinctive resources. The speed advantage is already there.
So Norris and Piastri are solid, consistent, executing at a high level.
Extremely high level. But the car's dominance means they aren't consistently forced into those do-or-die moments where they must deliver a wow performance to get the result.
Which makes it harder to judge their absolute ceiling, their ultimate potential as champions, because they're operating within, maybe, a comfortable margin provided by the call.
It does make it harder, yes.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on their talent, because you have to be incredibly talented to be there. It's more an observation about the environment they're currently showcasing it in. Until they face long periods needing to overcome genuine car weaknesses or consistently create those impossible moments against an equally strong rival. That final judgment on their champion status, at least from these commentators, it remains a nuanced, open question.
It's an incredibly high bar, isn't it?
It is. But it's a bar that drivers like Hamilton, Verstappen, Alonso have shown they can clear.
Yeah.
Often without the best car underneath them.
That distinction is really important. It shifts the focus from their undeniable current success to their ultimate potential, what defines a truly great champion. It's not just capability, but what they're being compelled to show us.
Well put.
Let's dive a bit deeper into some individual nuances F1 Blogs highlighted. Starting with Oscar Piastri. What specific critiques did they have, even amidst what's been a very impressive rookie season?
Yeah, Piastri, despite being obviously a huge talent, incredible rookie year, he did get some specific critiques that point to, let's say, areas for refinement.
Okay.
They noted he's maybe not yet reading the strategy well from the cockpit. This ties back to that Hungary radio issue we discussed, that long monologue. It suggests maybe a slight struggle, processing complex strategic info in the heat of battle, making those instant decisive calls elite drivers often make instinctively.
Right, the on-the-fly thinking.
And furthermore, they observed that when he's trying to overtake Norris, or maybe others, he's sometimes prone to overbraking, and consequently, cooking his tires.
Hurting his race later on.
Exactly. Suggests maybe issues with tire management, maybe pushing a bit too hard too early, especially in wheel-to-wheel combat. They also pointed out he'd finished behind Norris in the previous two races, suggesting a pattern where Lando perhaps had the edge recently, maybe through more refined racecraft or better tire saving.
So, subtle things, but important at this level, not huge flaws, just areas to grow.
Areas where drivers mature, find that ultimate consistency with experience, definitely.
What about Lando Norris? He's clearly hugely capable. We talked about his great strategy call in Hungary. But were there any moments or observations that raised questions about his consistency or overall output, even in the supercar?
Yes, even for Norris, who many sees as a definite future champion, the commentators did highlight moments that, prevent a totally perfect picture.
Like what?
Well, back in Hungary, despite that brilliant strategy call later, he lost 2 places right at the start.
Ah, yes, the start.
Now, he recovered brilliantly, no question. But losing places off the line, especially for a driver of his quality in that car, it does raise small questions about consistency or maybe execution under that specific pressure of the opening lap. It's those little instances, even if overcome, that stop these commentators from calling it consistently extraordinary performance. They're looking for that near-flawless execution lap after lap, race after race, especially when the car allows it.
Right. Perfection is the standard at the very top.
Pretty much.
So if we try and synthesize all this, while both Piastri and Norris are undeniably strong, incredibly talented, contributing massively to McLaren's resurgence, their solid performances don't always translate into those game-changing, truly wow moments that define champions in the eyes of these F1 blogs commentators. Is that fair?
I think that's a fair summary of their perspective.
It sounds like it's that elusive, extraordinary factor, that ability to transcend the car, create something from nothing, that they're still looking for more consistently.
Precisely. They're performing exceptionally well, no doubt, elite level, maximizing the potential of a phenomenal car. But the feeling from the commentary was that the car itself is enabling that well enough performance. It creates a margin, meaning they aren't consistently required to dig into those deepest instinctive resources, those unique talents, the very greatest show in all conditions.
It's the difference between driving a fast car fast,
which they both do magnificently,
and driving any car, regardless of its pace, in an extraordinary way.
That's the distinction they were drawing. Until they're consistently forced to make up for car weaknesses or create those seemingly impossible moments under huge pressure. That final ultimate judgment on their champion status, from this critical perspective, remains a tantalizing question mark. It's an incredibly high bar, yes, but it's the bar set by the legends.
And that brings us towards the end of another, I think, really compelling deep dive. What a fascinating, multi-layered look at McLaren's season. So much going on there.
Definitely a team to watch.
We've unpacked their pragmatic, unwavering focus on both titles. How, for a top team, those goals often just overshadow any idea of favoritism.
The team comes first.
We explored that surprisingly nice rivalry between Norris and Piastri, questioning if its current lack of acidic drama maybe affects its ultimate appeal for us watching.
The goodness dilemma.
Exactly. And of course, we wrestled with that crucial debate. Is the McLaren supercar truly elevating its drivers to new, extraordinary levels, or is it just allowing them to perform well enough without needing those game-changing wow moments that we remember from the greats?
It's certainly a complex picture, isn't it? On one hand, amazing results, testament to the team, the engineering, the strategy, the speed.
Undeniable success.
But on the other hand, those intricate driver dynamics and the true extent of their individual wow factor when really pushed. That remains a subject of intense scrutiny, real debate among F1 followers.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now, as you watch the rest of this thrilling F1 season? As you tune in, maybe think about what you find most compelling. Is it the strategy battles on the pit wall, the raw speed, the precision of the cars? Or is it the personal rivalries, the human drama playing out on track?
In the F1 blog's discussion, it ended with a really provocative, quite exciting thought. They mused that while this Norris-Piastri rivalry might lack the villains of the past, it still has the potential to deliver a truly epic, maybe climactic ending.
How so?
Imagine, they speculated, if it comes down to the very last corner, Abu Dhabi. If things get more eventful between now and then, and that championship fight stays super close between them.
Wow. That would be something. Which leads us to a final question for you to think about after this. Is the sheer thrill of a championship battle, that pure, professional, hard-fought competition, is that enough? Enough to captivate you and make a season unforgettable?
Well, does a rivalry to reach truly legendary status need that extra layer, that personal animosity, that bad blood, to become truly iconic in your mind?
What kind of ending would you prefer? A polite, professional battle decided by tiny margins, or a dramatic, emotionally charged clash that leaves everyone polarized and breathless? Something to ponder. Until next time, keep digging deep.